The following is a live broadcast of a Lone Star community radio program, recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and facebook.com/irlonestar. For more information on this show, please visit our show page at irlonestar.com/shows. To sponsor or donate to this program, visit our donate page at irlonestar.com/donate, or email us at lscrstudios@gmail.com, or give us a call at 936-666-1084. Lone Star Community Radio production and broadcast is possible by folks like you. So sponsor and donate today.
Hey, this is Jamie from Green River Ordnance. You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Glad you're able to join us today. It's a great time of year. We're going into the holiday season with Thanksgiving just behind us, and I think, gosh, lots and lots of opportunity, especially in light of the COVID pandemic. All businesses, I think, need to be moving forward as quickly as possible. We're broadcasting live today, as we typically do, from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located right here in Conroe, Texas, county seat of Montgomery County. And this is one of the fastest growing cities in America. So it's a great place to talk about business, among many other topics. And also, as I mentioned earlier, it's holiday time. And one of the things I think is very, very important for our business owners, managers, is get into the spirit. Get into the spirit of the holidays. It's a special spirit that really can boost your business. And again, I know we've been under a lot of unusual, difficult, challenging pressure with the COVID pandemic. But now is a real opportunity. If you haven't started moving forward in your business, and I recognize that restaurants and some other businesses that require a lot of personal contact are still somewhat restricted, but generally speaking, even if you're restricted, even if you're shut down temporarily, start making the plans to come out the other side. And if you're in business, make sure you infuse the holiday spirit in your business. I'm going to talk about that in my best tip of the week, and so it's very important. So the Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and now businesses throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, business ideas to improve your business, and to be part of a general conversation that can make a real difference in your business. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make a real difference in your business. And I want to make sure, if you've not joined us before, that you know that the show is being broadcast live on Facebook Live. Just go look up our page, The Weekly Business Hour, click on the View or Live button, and you can watch as well as listen to today's program. Also, remember, if you have thoughts, comments, have a question for one of our guests or for myself about your business or what they're talking about, then just drop me a quick email. You can do it during the show or after. We'll get back to you one way or the other. Email's real easy. It's the number one, bestconsult@gmail.com. That's bestconsult@gmail.com. Look forward to those emails. It's very, very important that those emails begin that communication and the conversation that we're going to have about business. Well, today we have what I consider a very special guest with us, a very unique individual who's going to talk to us about crisis management in a perspective that is personal as well as professional for him. And I think he's going to offer some tips that really are going to help you the next time you face a crisis in your business or personal life. Let me introduce Andrew Treutle. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rick, thank you very much for having me.
Well, Andrew, as I sort of gave that intro, you've had a unique life, done some great things. You've got a wonderful biography of businesses, traveled around the world, worked around the world, and then suddenly things changed dramatically. I'm going to let you take it away and give us a little bit of your background to tell us what gives you that unique perspective.
Thank you so much. So, real quick, okay, so I was born in Dallas, so I'm a little boy. I lived in North Carolina, Virginia, and California. I went to Texas A&M University, and now my wife and I initially moved to Atlanta from college. I went and worked for Arthur Anderson. So I started my career in public accounting. Eventually, I went to the business consulting from audit. And then I ended up, after Enron, I ended up at basically at Alvarez and Marsal. And I did a lot of work with crisis, companies in crisis. And basically, I spent up until like 2016, I was there. I made partner at the firm. So in about 3 months after I made partner, I was training for the mini triathlon up in the Woodlands, up at CBI mini triathlon, and I was in an accident. And as a result of the accident, I was in a coma for 5 weeks. I had a traumatic brain injury. I fractured my collarbone. I separated my shoulder. I herniated a disc in my back. I fractured my vertebrae.
Well, you had multiple injuries, both physical and then also
and
on the mental side,
yes.
because you received a severe brain injury as well.
I did, yeah. So it was so. Let me say this. So I spent that time period, the last 7 years, trying to, more than anything, I think initially my focus was the medical, okay? But here's the strange thing about brain injury and recovery. There is no one-stop shop for brain injury. There is no Walmart for brain injury. And I went to some wonderful, wonderful places to recover from my brain injury. None of them are designed to take you from beginning to end for brain injury. They're just not designed. The brain is far too complex, and the injuries can be so significant. They can't possibly do everything. So what I would say is this with brain injury, every brain injury is custom. The recovery is custom, and without a doubt. So basically, over my last 6 years, I've been focused on my own brain and my own recovery. And it's gone from medical to cognitive. I did a ton of cognitive work. It's done psychological, and then the last is sociological, which is this. It's getting out into society. And so, and also, I think also part of that, and I think this goes back to it, I think is you have to, at some point, the psychology is understanding yourself, okay? The sociological side of it is understanding how you can affect others. And that is a huge difference. People with brain injury, they're not designed to think about other people. They're not designed to do that at all. Matter of fact, probably in our society, we don't do it enough. Brain injury is pretty bad. So I went through basically a phase or 6 phases to try and get to that. So hopefully I'm getting closer. But technically, after 2 years, the medical part of your healing is supposed to be done. So add on another 4 years, 5 years, and that's where I am now.
Well, let me make a comment, because I think it's important for people to understand. Like you mentioned, I can only assume, and it makes all the sense in the world, that each brain injury, particularly, very different, say, than a broken leg or a broken arm.
Yes.
And there are always differences because we've all been around those
Yes.
injuries, whether we've suffered them or not. But it's unique. The complexity of the brain
It's unreal.
and whatnot. But in your case, it's even more unique as far as you as a person. You had a background working for Alvarez, which is a internationally owned. Really, they don't call it this, but a crisis management
It
firm.
is.
It
It's
helps
a
companies.
restructuring firm.
You know, I mentioned to you one of our sons worked for them, and
Yeah.
he was there to help companies work out of their
That's right.
issues and try to survive, larger companies. And so you had this background of crisis management training,
Right.
both skills and experience. And then you were injured, and now you had your own major crisis.
Right.
And you've had to work through it over the last, 4, going on 5 years,
Yeah.
I guess, 16. And so when you come to the table to talk about crisis management, again, there's probably not another living human being, perhaps, that has your background, both experience, skills, to talk about crisis management in the business world as well as personal.
Right.
So I think this is a unique opportunity for our listeners to learn a bit about that. And as we, let's shift and talk about managing a crisis.
Yeah.
Some of the things that you learned in your business experience, but then as you went into your personal crisis, what you used and what works. I mean, you offered me some information, and it said that there were some key elements. You offered some key elements, and the first was to take action.
Yes.
I guess that move forward. Tell us about
Yes.
that.
All right, so it's a very interesting piece, and I think with companies that are struggling, they're failing, just sitting there and hoping. First off, hope is not a plan, but hoping that things are get better isn't going to work. Just like brain injury, hoping you're going to get better is not going to work. You have to actually take action to go do it. Now, for business, get control of your cash. Cash is your lifeblood. Get control of your cash. So there are things like that that I think are important for business. That's also important for any kind of personal issues, personal crisis. You have to make sure that we are immensely focused on cash. I stay away from debt. I don't like debt at all. I want freedom. I want some flexibility. I want to be able to handle a rainy day. And so we do save for a rainy day. And so we're always saving, and we're always dealing with contingency plans. You're going to have contingency plans if they come out. So we focus on that. We focus on the other thing that I'd kind of point to that I keep coming back to, and this is really important, is relationships. Cash is your lifeblood. Relationships in the business make all the difference. Sometimes, like now with the pandemic, relationships, they can't feed you. It's tough. They can help you try and weather the pandemic, but they can't feed you. Same thing with a personal issue. I'm telling you right now, it's amazing how important those relationships, business or otherwise, are no matter what. Because when you have lost everything, relationships mean everything. I mean, relationships are absolutely critical. And you will, like my firm, I love my firm so much. I love the people at my firm so much. One of the greatest challenges I've had, and I've tried, is to be relevant to them, and I can't. But I miss the people immensely. I miss the culture. So,
you mentioned relationships, and that is something that I find difficult for a lot of business people that I'll work with.
Yeah.
They understand it, but our society, technically, we're kind of getting away from the in person, right? And the COVID just sort of amplifies that and just blows it
accelerated
up.
that.
Right?
I mean, it's so bad.
And so I still believe, of course, I grew up during a time when my personal relationship with, say, the banker,
Yeah.
who I borrowed money from, or at least did my banking business, whatever that might be, when things got tight, I watched it, even as a young person,
Yeah.
where my dad and my uncle, things got tough with the economy and it put squeeze on everybody, but they had a personal relationship and they were able to get through it financially as well as otherwise. And it sounds like, from your perspective and what you've been through personally with with your personal situation, that people really need to focus. And this applies to individuals. I'm not trying to give them the short shift, but it's business owners, business people need to have relationships with the key people that they do business with, so to speak.
Yeah, and the way that I think about it is let's say this. Don't think about them as just business relationships. It's personal. It's always personal. It may not be personal now, but things will change and it'll become immensely personal. So, and that's
a good point. You need to have those personal relationships. And I don't see those like I used to. Well, believe it or not, we're to the end of our first segment today.
Okay.
Need to take a commercial break. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our first commercial break of the day. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with Andrew and talk about some of the other advice he has that I believe can help you during our current quote-unquote crisis, right, with the pandemic. And perhaps as you grow your business down the road, you can face each trial and tribulation with a renewed sense of success. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's All Business Talk on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. right here on Lone Star Community Radio.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Hey guys, this is Connor.
This is Dick.
This is Chris.
And we're with the Ticket Stub Podcast every Thursday live at noon on 104.5 and 106.1 FM in the Conroe area. Also, anytime at irlonestar.com. You go to irlonestar.com/TTS. You can find all of our social media.
And don't forget, we give away 2 tickets to the Grand Theater on every show.
If you like movies and you like complaining or celebrating anything that has to do with the silver screen, check out the Ticket Stub Podcast and join us every Thursday at noon o'clock on Lone Star Community Radio.
For business ideas and news you can use, join us on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. It's Rick Schissler. I'm your host, and we're having a wonderful conversation here today with Andrew Treutle. Andrew has faced personal as well as professional and business crisis. He's got a really unique background in that he was a workout specialist. Those are my words for it. Workout specialist for Alvarez and Marcel, one of the most notable firms in the entire world that helps companies get back together or, if need be, to sell off. So he's had that kind of experience and had a tremendous personal crisis, which he's weathered through. And he's offering us a really unique perspective as business owners, managers, people that want to keep moving forward. Andrew, we went to break and you and I spoke a little bit about return on investment. Very common financial number when we purchase something, particularly assets, then we want to kind of figure out what's our return on investment. A lot of people do it with human capital as well. But you have another expression too, in addition to return on investment. One of the things on your checklist is ROL. Briefly, tell our listeners what ROL is.
ROL is return on life, and that is it's similar to return on investment. That is that there are things in your life that are going to bring you immense value and comfort, and you need to make sure you make an investment. We talked about relationships. That's ROL. Invest in those relationships so that you can have the comfort when things get bad. Return on life. It's important. Now, and here's the thing. In a internal environment, it is not uncommon for people to go through personal crisis. Their company is failing. Some are losing their job. The return on life will become absolutely critical. Good, because they may not have that job anymore, but they will have the people, the relationships, and that is absolutely critical. And it is very important. I think that is one of the things that I would like to think that made us different from other construction firms, and that is that when there was a difficult message, we understood that it was difficult for everybody involved. And we were upfront about it. We were absolutely honest about it. But we understood we were affecting people's lives. We were affecting their families. We get that. So there is some compassion that's absolutely required. You can't just come in and rip the Band-Aid off. It doesn't work.
Well, one of the things I have a difficult time with so many business people that I'm mentoring or advising is they run their business, they have a certain degree of success, maybe highly successful, okay? Of course, I always say, what does that mean to you? Well, if they have family, and they almost always do, whether it's, the family with mother, father, whatever, these people are impacted by their well-being and the well-being of their business. And so often, and there's been a lot written, particularly in the last 10, 20 years, about balance, work-life balance and all that. But when you're in a crisis, it's so important to back up for a minute, take a breath, and say, in your case, I like the phrase, return on life.
Yeah.
And an example you gave, at some point, if your business is struggling under tremendous stress, it may not succeed, and you've got to accept that and do the things you need to do to successfully withdraw. And I think it's so interesting. It kind of leads me into another area that I really appreciate some of the work you've done is the emotional impact of dealing with emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have emotions working when you're in a crisis. And it's just, that's where you at least outwardly see people really kind of falter and stumble, is when their emotions take over. And you've pointed out some important things, I think, about how important it is to control emotions within a crisis.
Yes.
Talk about that with us.
Okay, well, first off, there's going to be two things I'm going to talk about. One is if you're in a crisis, and a professional crisis versus a personal crisis. Professional crisis, it's important to control your emotions because you do affect those around you. If you start to get worried and you start to stress and you start to act irrationally, people around you will notice. That does not bring them comfort. It's very hard to make logical decisions when you're acting emotionally. It's very hard. So you don't do that. At least my experience is no shooting from the hip, none of that stuff. So be very logical, be very honest. Now, so that's the professional side. The personal side is this. With brain injury, emotions can be affected. People can, with brain injury, they can lash out. And they have to, and because the brain, there is part of the brain that controls emotions. So I constantly am cognizant of that. I constantly know that I need to watch what I say. For example, I can't read expressions. I can't read somebody's face. I have no idea. Happy and mad, I've got no idea. I can't read emotions. That's one example. Is brain injury completely throws that off. So you've got with TBI as well. You've got what's called TBI anger. They can't control anger. They lash out. Now, I never dealt with that. I'm extremely fortunate. I never dealt with that. I dealt with anxiety. Go figure. Somebody with brain injury overthinking something. Me. Go figure. But I know that. I'm constantly searching for the truth. I'm constantly searching for the reality. So I think that's important on the personal side.
You know, one of the things you talk about is that I feel is so important that a person address is the impact of fear. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're afraid of failing. We feel ill-equipped to deal with the crisis. So there's fear, and the idea that fear, if you don't control it, the obvious is it takes over. Talk to us about your perspective on fear as an emotion and what it can do if not held in check.
Well, for example, this pandemic, as I've heard from friends, has been termed as a fear pandemic. People are afraid of everything else going around, so they say, oh, let me just stay in my spot, distance myself, and wait for us to fall right at the storm. And that's the challenge. When you are constantly afraid, you don't go out and take action. You don't go move. You don't do something. Even if it's the wrong thing, you don't do something. Because here's the thing. The human is incredibly resilient, and it adapts incredibly well. So even mistakes, which I make a lot of, you can learn from. You can learn from mistakes, and you can learn to adapt from those mistakes, and that's okay. So,
well, it's such a critical thing, and people need to get it. We're kind of winding down already. It's just amazing. This conversation could go on, but you let's conclude by letting you share some other thoughts that you might have for people that are facing that personal, professional, business crisis. One of the things you say is don't stop trying, which to me I interpret that as don't give up. Well, we hear that expression, but what does that mean to you?
Everything that I used to do, I took for granted. And now I find that I have to try everything. And I fail a lot on some of the most basic things ever. But my experience is just keep trying. Even if you fail, it's okay to fail. But it's not okay to think you're a failure. It's okay to fail. It's not okay to think you're a failure. So you just keep trying. It's okay. You may not be good at it, but that's okay. Don't when I say keep trying, don't get lazy. Don't sit there and assume somebody else is gonna do something. Take it on yourself. You can do it. Focus on your relationships. Again, they're critical. They give you comfort. For me, I'm at a point where I have to think about what I'm going to do now, what I'm going to do next, okay? So now I've gone through a brain injury. I've gone through this event. And this is what I'd say for anybody that goes through a traumatic event. You are uniquely positioned to help people deal with this adversity. So I am uniquely positioned and can relate to people with TBI. So I can help them try and deal with this. I can show them at least what I have done, what I've learned. So my memory is shot. So to adapt to Karen, I wrote everything down. I journalized it all. So I've got no problem sharing that journal with people. So if I feel what I can do next for society is to help people with TBI, help them try and recover, get over this adversity, and that's okay.
You know, that's one of the things I think is important. As you and I discussed, I've had a physical health issue that was nowhere near as challenging as yours, but it still challenged me and just knocked me completely off of my course, and my family as well. And to pivot from that, because I survived first, and then to pivot and take that information, that knowledge, to me is almost a natural thing to do, because now you've got that unique perspective. And the same could be said of people who have worked with businesses through crisis, whether they successfully or unsuccessfully. We all have an opportunity to contribute and take our unique perspective and relay it to others. Me, I do consulting, which means advising, mentoring. I try to take 40 plus years of business experience in starting and building, selling businesses. And I think it's really important, the point you make, that you take your experience and then you turn around and help other people. The question of adversity, it's going to be there in business.
Yes.
You can't start a business and not have some challenges.
Yeah.
And some of them will be obvious, like a fire or some kind of situation. It could be a health issue for you as an owner. But there are ways to get through those adversities if you, as the owner, as the central character in casting, decide you want to move forward.
Right.
And I think what you bring to the table personally, after visiting today for a short period of time, is the opportunity that people can see, get through the crisis, get through the shock, recover to the best of your ability. And that's one thing I'm not sure you really touched on, because this is true for business, it's true for health issues. You may not be back to exactly where you were before, even in business.
I know I won't.
I mean, like this pandemic, I've seen so many businesses have to adjust, to pivot, whatever you want to call it, and do it successfully. So in January of 2021, they're not going to be selling the same products, services, or doing things the same way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. They are dealing with adversity to find success.
Right.
That is strength.
And the flexibility that people need. I mean, I know I had a game plan, I had a business plan, strategic plan, whatever, a personal plan.
Right.
And something came at me that knocked it off the track, and my ability to pivot if I decide to move forward.
Right.
And that's a big if. You talked about getting lazy. It's funny, when I was growing up, we had an expression for older people then, but it's true, particularly in health issues. You know this, I know it. He's taken to his chair, meaning he's quit. Yeah. Now, when you reach a point in life and you're aged, you just physically can't keep moving, but a lot of times it's driven by the mental, at least my limited experience that I've seen with family. But it gets back to, if you decided to stay on your feet, right, you've got to make that decision first at some point. You've got to overcome that fear, at least have it controlled where you can make good, solid decisions.
And you have to decide that I'm going to continue to move forward. And you may not have to for money or for anything else.
Right.
But you will want to contribute some way. You will want to move forward.
I guess the best advice, if I had a single thing to tell people, would be when you're to that point, whether it's recovery from an illness or your business has struggled and you've kind of gotten everything kind of settled a little bit, or to a point where you're not bleeding money, the cash flow or whatever, and you can see a way forward to survive, and you got to make that decision. I think what the single most important thing I see is to take stock of what you have.
Yeah.
Relationships, right? But also what experience.
Yeah.
You've got experience working at a high level of helping businesses that are in crisis.
Sure.
Okay, then you've got the experience, the health issue experience, and together, what can I do with that?
There's
And
a
really
button. There's a
take
spot
stock.
somewhere.
I'm sorry?
There's a need somewhere. There's a spot somewhere.
And I think the need, quite frankly, if I can add, is it can be as high as you want it to be.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of levels where you can take your skills and your ability. We're all called to do that anyway, to use our abilities.
Yeah.
But now your abilities have changed, so take stock of them
Yeah.
and say, where can I best utilize those abilities?
Right. And believe it or not, because I thought about this a lot, I know that my world's completely changed. I can help people with TBI figure out how to move forward. I can do that. I know how to do that. I can help companies that are struggling, they're going through adversity. I can help their people understand how to move forward. I can do that. So,
And that's what you do. I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining us today. I've enjoyed the conversation, as brief as it was. A wonderful topic and a wonderful opportunity you have, as many others, to help people, particularly in their times of need, being a crisis in their lives, the lives of their business. If people want to reach out to you and have a question, is there an email address or somewhere they could drop you a line, or
yes.
or they can come through me? How would you like people to reach out?
Actually have them come through you.
Okay,
You've got my email,
absolutely.
and so let's do that. But I would be more than happy to do whatever I can to help.
Well, I appreciate it. Andrew Treutle, thank you so much. And if you have a question for Andrew specifically, just drop me a line. That's at onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's onebestconsult@gmail.com. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to take our bottom of the hour break, as I like to say. And when we come back in the second half, one of the things I want to do personally is to comment on some of the things that Andrew shared with us today, and kind of go back through them in somewhat of a quick way, but to give you some key points that I see. And then I'm going to offer my One Best Consult tip of the week, as promised. How can my business successfully celebrate the holidays? So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
For business ideas and news you can use, join us on the weekly business hour every Monday at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
A Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for summer internship opportunities, a Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to grab the mic and be on the air. A Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world all year round. Be an on-air personality, talk show producer, or YouTube, TV, podcast editor. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Health Center Southeast Texas is a federally qualified health center. We accept Medicare, Medicaid, and most major private insurances. For our self-pay patients, we have a sliding scale discount program available. Our health centers have qualified providers and staff striving every day to provide the best quality of care to our patients. Services offered are family medicine, behavioral health services, telepsychiatry, and pediatrics. We have 4 area locations. Look up the Health Center Southeast Texas online at hcset.com.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or
call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
It's all business talk on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. right here on Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler. I'm your host. We just completed, I think, a wonderful conversation with Andrew Treutle. I appreciate him taking time to join us. Andrew has faced some real personal challenges, health issue with a TBI, traumatic brain injury, but he also has a wonderful, very experienced background in working with companies in crisis at the highest level as he worked internationally, helping companies navigate the business crisis, typically rooted in financial. He brings that to the table, and I hope if you didn't catch the full conversation that you'll re-listen. The show will be available on social media after Wednesday of this week, and you can click on it, and please share it with people. We all have crisis. We're all kind of in a big crisis right now, but some businesses are doing well. I even know a couple that are doing extremely well, but a lot of folks have suffered. So it's important to understand and get some advice and encouragement on how to navigate the crisis at hand. And remember, again, that the podcast video cast will be published in its entirety. It'll be available right here at irlonestar.com. Simply go to the website, click on the shows and the morning shows and the weekly business hours there, and you can find the show right there. A whole list of shows are available to look at, and I encourage you to do so. Let's recap that conversation with Andrew. I mean, it had some wonderful advice and encouragement in it, based primarily on personal experience, and I think that is a really healthy perspective, particularly in times of crisis, in dealing with the crisis that Andrew has dealt with for 4 going on 5 years in his life after being injured in an accident, automobile hit him, and being able to come back. And there are several things I picked up on. I want to kind of share them again. First of all is the need to focus on facts and not emotions. The easiest thing for any of us, and myself included, that when we face a crisis, whether it be a sudden crisis or one that takes time to develop, is the emotions begin to take over. And the ability to kind of slow the emotions down, back them up, put them in a place where they're not impacting the facts of the situation. You've got to gather the facts before you can make those key decisions to help your business survive. So watch the emotions and whatever you have to do to ease them off, to relax, to let them go for some period of time, it really will have, or potentially will have, a tremendous impact on you making the best decision based on the facts at hand. Fear is the main emotion that happens in crisis. Fear creeps into people's thinking, some more than others, some quicker than others, but it creeps into the thinking of, I would contend, everyone. And our ability to deal with that emotion and not make irrational, illogical decisions based on fear is very important. So work to control your emotions, focus on the facts. And the second thing that I really picked up from what he had to say today is, in the crisis, accept the fact that you're dealing with a whole new set of rules. And this is one that I've experienced recently, and I've talked to some business owners, is we're looking at the old way of doing things. And it doesn't mean they're gone, but it does mean you need to be aware that there are new rules. In other words, yesterday, so to speak, your business was moving along, it was growing, it was doing what you wanted it to do, it was headed towards the exit, so to speak, of what you personally had set out to do with the business. Then all of a sudden, bam, a crisis. Could be a small crisis, could be a large crisis. You're diverted off the track you're trying to follow and have been following successfully. This necessarily means that there are a new set of rules. And again, not throwing out all of the old things that worked, But you have to wake up and say, hey, I'm in a crisis situation and I need to think a little bit differently. I need to gather those facts and I need to move forward based on what's in front of me now, some of which, or maybe all of which, wasn't in front of me yesterday. I've got to solve issues that I didn't have yesterday. So it's important that we recognize and accept that there's a new set of rules. To me, as always, your goal is to be a leader. You're going to lead your business. You're going to lead your family. You're going to take care of people, and you're going to make sure that you're able to move forward in whatever that looks like. And that may mean take 2 steps back, reset, and then proceed forward, perhaps at a slower pace. But leadership, your ability to stand up and lead, is so critical now. Because if you don't, then the chances are very strong that you will fail during that crisis. And whatever that means, maybe the failure of business, maybe a setback for 10, 20 years, I don't know. But your chances of success in navigating that crisis, large or small, are greatly reduced when you don't assume the leadership and take on the task at hand. And the last thing is to execute well. Now, we're always supposed to execute well. I mean, that's a given. But the reality is, when you're in a crisis, one of the key things, I think, is you really have to focus. When you're getting bombarded with all this new information, new roadblocks, inability to deal and work as you did, as I said yesterday, you can lose focus. It's easy. I mean, it really is easy to lose your focus. It's kind of like driving down the road, the weather's good, the visibility's good, and all of a sudden thunderstorm hits with the lightning, which is a noise, and the rain is so hard you can't see, even with the windshield wipers are just going 90 miles an hour, and you should slow down. So all of a sudden your progress has been slowed to a point that oftentimes you'll see people will actually pull off the road and let the storm pass. So those people made a decision, hopefully for the right reasons. The same thing happens in your business. And when that storm hits, it's even more important that you focus down the road. You keep your eyes poised. You don't the lightning doesn't distract you, or noise or something in the car. You really need to be focused every minute of every day of where you're going to go, where you've determined you're going to go. So those are the 3 things I feel. The need to focus on facts and not emotions. The new set of rules that are put in place by the reality of a crisis. It's just part of what happens. And last but not least, focus. Tremendous focus. Again, I thank Andrew for joining us today. We're going to take our final break of the day. And when I come back, I'm going to try to focus on the best consult tip of the week. How can my business successfully celebrate the holidays? They're on top of us, so let's talk about them. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back.
It's all about business on the Weekly Business Hour every Monday at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
Lone Star Boxer Rescue is a nonprofit organization serving Montgomery County and surrounding areas, dedicated to the health and well-being of the boxer breed. Lone Star Boxer Rescue is run and managed 100% by volunteers since 1999. Our main objective is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome boxers that come to us from many sources, including local animal shelters, owner surrenders, and strays. For more information about Lone Star Boxer Rescue, visit our website at lsbr.org.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your question. Get seen on TV or YouTube and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Sponsor your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Hey guys, this is Connor.
This is Dick.
This is Chris.
And we're with the Ticket Stub Podcast every Thursday live at noon on 104.5 and 106.1 FM in the Conroe area. Also, anytime at irlonestar.com. You go to irlonestar.com/TTS. You can find all of our social media.
And don't forget, we give away 2 tickets to the Grand Theater on every show.
If you like movies and you like complaining or celebrating anything that has to do with the silver screen, check out the Ticket Stub Podcast and join us every Thursday at noon o'clock on Lone Star Community Radio.
Not sure who to turn to when you have a problem in your business? Listen to the Weekly Business Hour on Lone Star Community Radio.
You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your host. And we're to that point in the show where I try to impart some of the wisdom that I've gained and some of the reading and people I've met with some ideas. And I think this time of year, again, we touched on at the beginning of the show, touched on it a little bit in our conversation with Andrew Treutle. It's the holidays. They're upon us. Thanksgiving is just behind us. And I think it is a unique opportunity every year, but this year I think it is not only unique, it is so important. So I've got 3 things I'd like to see you do if you haven't already done them. First of all, find ways to share with your employees, vendors, and customers. Find ways to share the holiday spirit with these 3 critical parts of your business: your employees, your vendors, and your customers. All kinds of things, opportunities are available that you can share. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean giving things away, which is great. I think it's great to hand out a candy cane, if nothing else. But the idea is that you infuse that spirit within your business and that this becomes about the holidays. And again, this year, because of what we've been through for most of the year with the pandemic, I think it is a unique opportunity to really connect with all 3 of those groups. If you really take it up a notch or 2 and really work at it, in fact, every day between now and the new year, I think you're going to see some tremendous results, not just immediately, but for the long term. Why? Because you'll build stronger relationships. You have the potential to do that during this time of the year. Second is make sure your business, your location, your website, all your marketing materials reflect that spirit. And that's kind of an action plan for the first one. But check off, make sure your location reflects your business's holiday spirit. I'm not going to tell you need to put up a Christmas tree or some garland or lights or whatever religious symbols you might have. That's up to you. But make sure that when I drive up to your business, when I look you up on a website, your website says Happy Holidays at the very least. and make sure it reflects the true spirit of the season that you have for your business. Make sure you touch all the bases to deliver that consistent message day in and day out. And the last thing I want to touch on is find opportunities for your business to participate in local events so you can visibly share your spirit with the general public. Lots and lots of opportunities to give, to participate. It's not just about writing a check. Look for opportunities for your business, which may include your employees, may include your customers, may even include your vendors. Oftentimes, vendors are willing to donate time and money and talent to an event that helps raise money, say, for a group or individuals that need some help. It doesn't matter, but be visible. Join the general public and carry your message forth about the true spirit of your business. Well, thank you for joining us again. I hope you'll be with us next week. We'll be here on Monday at 11 a.m. and look forward to having you come with us. And until next week, stay engaged in your business and keep your focus, as always, on your business. Thanks.
Today's show was recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and all rights and ownership are reserved to Lone Star Community Radio. For more information regarding this program and Lone Star Community Radio, visit us online at irlonestar.com. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, serving the community with local programming on TV, radio, and online. If you enjoyed today's program, please support us by sponsorship or starting your own show. Contact us today by phone or text at 936-666-1084 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.